New member of the cast. It is time for our Diamond Debate with Kayla Santiago. Hello, Kayla, and welcome to the panel. Welcome to these crazy fellas up here.
We'll go to the Diamond Debate, guys. There was a lot going on in this game, and it was only week one. What are the biggest worries right now? Can you pinpoint what things that they need to focus on in week two to make sure we don't push the panic button just yet?
Well, I don't think we really have to be in a position to push the panic button. I think everybody expected, Kayla, for the Eagles to come out rusty. I expected for the offense to be a lot more polished than it was, but I thought the defense would be rusty. But that's just the nature of the beast now that we're not playing preseason games anymore. We're not even hitting in training camp or doing anything in training camp, but walking through, at a high rate. So the first 4 games, to me, are going to be like preseason games. And the only thing that you can hope for as an Eagles fan is that they figure out how to get through these 4 games and potentially win all 4 of them if they can before they really get into the meat of the schedule.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of Eagle fans, because of what they did last year, thought they were going to blow this team out. And in game one, as I said, we really didn't have a frame. The machine's not oiled that well, and coupled with the fact that Bill Belichick has had a lot of time to prepare. He saw what the Eagles did offensively last year. A new offensive coordinator wasn't going to change much of what they did. I thought he focused on containing Jalen Hurts and making it a kind of a sluggy game, and he accomplished that. Now, the Eagles, I thought, when they were up 16-0, maybe they got a little complacent. At 16-0, I don't know. I know, Seth, you don't believe that happens, or it shouldn't happen to a pro football team. But I thought, they 16-0. Maybe they figured this is an easy win for them. I don't know. I'm not worried about it at all.
No, listen, if there's one thing I am worried about, is them defending the middle of that field. This is a problem that's carried over from last season, and we understand it's a growing element. New defensive coordinator, new assistant defensive coordinator, 5 new personnel on that defense. But New England, which is not a potent offense, came out and exploited the middle of the field. Once they settled in and figured out where they could attack, they attacked it consistently, and that's where they were able to make some headway and get back into this ball game. They couldn't run the ball on the Eagles' defense, but they used the run to set up the play action, and sure enough, they had people wide open in the middle of the field again. This is going to be a problem. If they don't figure this out, it's going to be a major problem as they start playing some of these better quarterbacks in the league, especially that stretch where they've got to play what I call murderer's row, 5 games against potential playoff teams.
By the time they get their D-gun, they should be hitting on all cylinders. But this is the thing that concerns me. The Eagles' first drive, they come out, they go, and this is a theme all day long. The first drive they come out, they go 14 plays, 61 yards. 14 plays, 61 yards, and they wound up kicking a 32-yard field goal. Then they proceed to go 4 plays, 26 yards, and the turnover off of the touchdown off of the turnover, okay? Then they go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. 2 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, 9 yards, 4 punts in a row, okay? Now, last year they were a second quarter team, especially early in the season. But to see that is alarming. And then they come out, they go 10 plays, 33 yards. 10 plays, 33 yards. And then they got to kick a 56-yard field goal. And it's like when I begin to look at these statistics, they go the next series, they go 11 plays, 50 yards. And they still got to kick a 48-yard field goal. See, that's problematic to me.
All right, so as sluggish as the offense was today, you believe there could be a carryover of that? I mean, we were used to seeing it so efficient last year. It's the same potent team. So could this have been just one game where it was the first game of the year they were sluggish? Do you think that's a problem?
It could be, and you look for this team to be a lot more efficient based upon how explosive and how efficient they were last year. You would think that they would be able to take it to another level. But to your point, Bill Belichick had a plan. He had a plan, and it wasn't necessarily to stop any one person, D-Gun, like we talked about in the pregame. No. It was a plan to stop how they operate. And how they operate, he knows, is to get Jalen Hurts involved in the running game. So when you took away the dive and you took away the P in the RPO, that meant that the option falls to Jalen Hurts. And they even had an answer for that. Very few teams have the ability to come up with a scheme that can actually get that done. Bill Belichick did that early, and he did it often to this Philadelphia Eagles offense today.
To me, this was a part of the maturation process of Brian Johnson. Belichick, being the master that he is, the first series was a feel-out series to see what they're going to do. So they meticulously went down the field, and they did what they did. All of a sudden, he adjusted. Brian Johnson did not counter-adjust as the game wore on, when the Eagles had 4 consecutive series where they had to punt the ball. They never really found their niche in terms of how to counter this Patriots defense. They had some big plays when they had to, but not consistently, as we're accustomed to seeing this Eagles offense. And again, they came out on the other side of what was a roller coaster type affair with a W. But if Sirianni is committed to Brian Johnson calling the plays, then this is going to have to be where Brian Johnson really starts to evolve as that play caller.
And staying with Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts, too. Dallas Goedert was targeted one time, and that play really should have gone to Devontae Smith. But there was multiple times where Jalen Hurts missed Dallas Goedert. Do you think that's a week one, trying to get comfortable with Brian Johnson's play calling, or was Jalen just not on it today?
No, we talked about it in a previous segment. I felt like Jalen just wasn't in sync.
Right.
When you don't play and you miss, so the ramp up is training camp and then the preseason games. Then the intensity level goes up. Then you go from the preseason game to regular season, the intensity level goes up even that much more. But you miss something in there. So you get thrown right into the regular season, and then everybody's like, Jalen Hurts, he looked unsure. He looked rushed. He didn't look like his normal calm self where you go through your progressions and the misses that you're talking about, he doesn't miss, even though his progression is in the right spot. Like that pass that he threw in the right end zone to A.J. Brown, the deep ball. We were talking about they need to take a shot down the field. Well, it was well-intentioned, but if he sees that there's 2 guys on him and he just slows down a half a tick, he got Dallas Goedert coming across the field, and Dallas either scores or gets them in the red zone if he sees that. But he predetermined where he was going with the ball, and that's something that Jalen never does. In my opinion, he just goes through his progression. But having not played and jumping right into the regular season, these are the timing issues that you have.
I think it was the case of Belichick rattling him in terms of what the scheme was going to be, and they never could quite figure it out. And accustomed to and coupled in the fact that they didn't play in the preseason. We knew the rust was going to be there. But when you're talking about playing the master of defense in a Bill Belichick, the man's a master of Jedi mind tricks. And that's exactly what happened in this game today. And you could tell by the way Jalen was making decisions or not making decisions that we're accustomed to watching him make.
They've got 4 days to turn this thing around. They play right again on Thursday, and Nakobe Dean walked out with a boot on his right foot. We talked about the offense, but him not possibly playing on Thursday, is that going to be an issue to try to clean up that defense, or you're not as worried with the Vikings offense?
I'm not as worried with Sam Howell, quarterback in this team. You talk about Mac Jones being an average quarterback. Here's a young quarterback who basically is learning how to play at this level. He didn't play last year.
You talking with Minnesota?
You're talking down the road.
Kirk Cousins.
Minnesota, yeah. Okay, so Kirk Cousins. Defensively, Kirk Cousins, they don't have the defense that they have. They have Brian Flores as the coordinator, but they don't have the personnel. They let a lot of that personnel go. Offensively, Dalvin Cook's not there.
Yep.
You still have Justin Jefferson. They picked up a wide receiver in the first round, but he's still got to learn his way. So this Vikings offense is going to be jagged.
They lost today, by the
They
way.
did.
The Vikings
To
lost
the
today.
Bucs.
But here's the question. It says you brought this up, and I'll ask Kayla. Do you believe that the Eagles are in jeopardy of not starting this season 5-0? I know, but by the time they get to the really good teams, they'll be in sync. But when we look at the schedule and who we have coming up, you got the Vikings, which lost today. The other couple of teams won, though. The Buccaneers beat the Vikings. The Commanders won today, and the Rams were in a pretty good fight today. I definitely saw them coming out of the gate 5-0. Are we suggesting that might not happen?
No, because I think that the times where they faltered last year early, they always followed it up with a good game. Mm-hmm. So like I said, they were fortunate enough to get away with this win today. But, and we haven't seen the post-game press conference by Nick Sirianni. We haven't seen any of the player interviews, none of that stuff. But I can promise you to a man, the theme is this isn't Eagles football, and we've got to get back to Eagles football. The focus needs to be different this week in practice. It will be much more intense. It'll be much more locked in, even though, the physical side of it, they probably won't be in pads again until Thursday night. But the detailed parts of it, I promise you, is going to be much more intensified, understanding that, we're going to be playing against a much better football team in the Minnesota Vikings than we face today in the New England Patriots. And with that being the case, that means that the intensity level is going to have to rise. Okay, you're going to have to lay all the chips on the table and realize that we need to come out of Thursday 2-0, because then we got a whole week and a half to heal up and be off and rest and all those kinds of things. So let's lay it all out on the table so we can get to 2-0, and then we can have our break.
I don't like Nakobe Dean's foot in a boot, and you've got a short turnaround to play a Thursday night game, number one. Number two, the Vikings are going to come in here with the highest paid tight end in the National Football League in T.J. Hawkinson, and he's better than both of the tight ends that the Patriots put on the field today. Now, I understand it's going to be the Eagles' home opener is going to be electric, but once Minnesota settles in and starts playing football, if they're watching the film and identify the best way to keep this Eagles defense on its heel, you're going to be looking at another game that shouldn't be as close as it should be.
Do you think it's going to be more of a shootout next week, just kind of looking ahead if the Eagles can get their offense together? Because you look at this team right now, and not going to say they're in trouble if they lose against the Vikings, but this is a game that they should win. And the games after that on the schedule, on paper, they're a lot more talented than these teams.
Brian Flores is a very good defensive coordinator. He's not Belichick, but he's very good at what he does. How does he get his personnel to respond in a situation like this compared to the guy they had last year in Ed Donatel? Ed Donatel's biggest problem when he was the coordinator last year, he's liked to play that soft cover defense, played a lot of zone defense. Brian Flores likes his guys to play more man, more bump and run type defense. How will that affect the timing and the rhythm of the Eagles offense? That's yet to be determined. If the Vikings can get some stops the way the Patriots did, the Vikings offensively worry me a little bit more than the Patriots because they have their guy Kirk Cousins and they have better weapons as well.
I think, though, as I look at the stat line from the Buccaneers Minnesota game, they ran the ball 17 times for 41 yards. Minnesota did. So I think they're going to miss Dalvin Cook a heck of a lot more than they thought that they would. Kirk Cousins had to put the ball up 44 times today. 44. And he threw one interception, was sacked twice, but we know how Kirk Cousins plays in primetime games.
Not great.
and how he plays under pressure. So this is the classic game for the defense to kind of step up and get done what they need to do. And I don't know how good or how bad Tampa Bay's defense actually is. Because Baker Mayfield was 21 for 34 today, 173 yards and 2 turnovers against that Minnesota defense. They ran the ball 33 times for 73 yards and no touchdowns today. So I don't know. I mean,
that tells me the Vikings stink. That tells me
when they are healthy,
Tampa Bay goes in there and wins that game with that performance.
When they are healthy, Tampa Bay's defense is not the problem. It's their offensive personnel. You have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin, and obviously Baker Mayfield played an efficient enough game to get the job done. Tampa Bay's defense, a Todd Bowles defense is a really good defense when he has the personnel. The problem they had last year was they were decimated by injuries down the stretch. But when they're healthy, they're almost as good as anybody in the NFL in terms of defense.
I'm just trying to figure out, this whole Minnesota thing, because I know that if Kirk Cousins has to throw the ball 44 times in order for this team to win, they're going to have 3+ sacks, and they're going to get at least two interceptions. That's a guarantee. It's a guarantee.
No worries. We have no worries. Thank you, Kayla. The Diamond Debate brought to us by Mark's Jewelers. We're going to come back with Mark Farzetta joining us. We have our Dr. Bruce coming in for the analysis of the injury, maybe to Kobe Dean, and much more to go on the Pile of Hockey Eagles postgame show right here live from Ocean Casino. We're back after this.